So, good day everyone. I am John Lawrence B. Gapiston, one of the reporter for today, and I am going to talk about gender. Our topic for today, or I am going to tackle to you today, is what is the difference between sex and gender? Why gender identity has discrimination? How does gender affect our self-concept? What is gender expression and gender expressions versus identity? So today I'm going to talk all of this in order for you to educate and know what are the difference of what is the difference of gender and sex. But first, what is gender? For you guys, what is gender? So gender is a range of characteristics pertaining of femininity and masculinity and differentiating between them. Depending on the context, this may include sex-based, social structures, and gender ability. So gender ability is how you identify your what is for you what you feel inside yourself, where do you belong. So guys, this is the first questions that I've mentioned earlier. So this is the questions. The question is, what is the difference between sex and gender? So sex is the anatomical classifications of people as male, female, or intersex, usually assigned at birth. So sex has only male or female. This cannot be changed. This cannot be changed. So if I think all of us has a birth certificate, even if you are gay, lesbian, or you are a member of LGBTQ, if you have in your birth certificate, you they can identify you as male or female even if you are a member of LGBTQ. So gender identity. So gender identity is each person's eternal and individual experience of gender. So it is a person's sense of being a woman, a man, both, neither, or anywhere along the gender spectrum. So which means you can be a woman, man. In shortcut, this talks about the LGBTQ, the lesbian, uh, gay, bisexual, transgender. I think Q means queer. So a person's gender identity may be the same as or different from their birth assigned or sex. So as I said earlier, sex has only male or female. But gender identity, it can be gay, bisexual, lesbian, or transgender. So the next question is, why gender identity has discrimination? So gender discrimination is unequal or disadvantageous treatment of an individual or group of individuals based on gender. Sexual harassment is a form of illegal gender discrimination. So gender identity has a lot of discrimination. I will give some example, a simple example. Just like when you are fill up in something, example when you go to UC, and then the guards will give you the form that you will sign that if you have COVID like that, but first you will put your name and then the gender. Before some forms they put sex, not gender, but that is part of discrimination because those who are part of LGBTQ, and they don't know if where they belong. Like I mean they know, but they want to fight with their feelings though. That's why they change it to gender. So they have freedom to put what is their identity. So third is, how does gender affect our self-concept? So, a typic pattern of gender differences has been found in previous self-concept research. Men have tended to rate themselves higher on self-concepts, measures of giftedness, power, and invulnerability, uh, invulnerability and so a typic pattern of gender differences has been found in previous self-concept research. Men have tended to rate themselves higher on self-concepts, measures of giftedness, power, and invulnerability, invulnerability, and women have rated themselves higher on self-concepts measure like ability and morality. So men and women have different powers. They have different ability. So what are the factors that influence self-concept? So there are various factors that can affect self-concept. This includes age, sexual orientation, gender, and religion. The self-concept is also made up of combination of self-esteem and self-image. So self-esteem refers to person's feelings of self-worthy or the value that they place on themselves. So I think this is the fifth question is, so what is gender expression? So gender expression is how a person publicity present their gender. This include behavior and outward appearance such as dress, hair, makeup, body language, and voice. A person's chosen name and pronoun are also common ways of expressing gender. So gender expression is how you dress up and how you show yourself to other people, so that they can identify you. So example, you are a gay, you are dressing for a woman, then other I know that people or persons are judgmental, right? So they can judge you by the way you dressed up. And even if I think some of gays they did not change how they use clothes, but they change themselves through their voice. So for that, we can identify their gender, if whether they are gay, lesbian, or transgender or bisexual. So next is gender expression versus gender identity. So this is the same as I said earlier. So gender identity, a person's gender identity may be the same as or different from their birth assigned sex. So this can be any what they feel, how they express what. So this is a freedom of their choice. So gender expression. So gender expression is how a person publicity expresses or present their gender. So how will they use and how will they show their gender? So this can include behavior and outward appearance such as dress, hair, makeup, body language, and voice. But specifically, in order for us to know what is their gender identity, commonly we will look at their outward appearance or through their voice and their body language. So second to the last question, what are the factors that influence gender stereotyping? So these are the factors. individual factors, physical and demographic differences, cognitive factors, categories of information, family factors, family upbringing, socio-cultural factors, socio and cultural status, organizational factors, organizational culture. So this is the last question. So this is the very important question. I'm going to explain to you guys. So what is the importance of gender equality? So gender equality prevents violence against women and girls, or the LGBTQ, not just girls. So it's essential for economic prosperity. Societies that value women and men as equal are safer and higher. So I know that the LGBTQ is having a hard time now because of discrimination, but guys, we know that as individual has a purpose, right? So we have freedom to live. We have freedom to express what we feel. To be honest, the LGBTQ has uh, has a power than an man. You know why? Because of their ability, and the way of thinking, and how they fight for their selves. So that is all for my topic. I hope you learned something, and thank you.
So, good day. I am Jarmar Bubuli from Group 5, and we are talking about gender and sexuality online. So, I'm gonna talk about gender stereotype. So, first, we need to know what is stereotyping. So, basically, stereotyping is a social psychology defines a stereotype as a generalized belief about a particular category of people. It is an expectation that people might have about every person of a particular group. So, for example, ng stereotype is every rich persons are maarte or OA. So, one example of stereotype. And sadly, stereotyping can also be seen in gender stereotyping. Also in gender, stereotyping is in gender. It is very common nowadays that we find stereotyping in gender. So what is gender stereotyping? Gender stereotyping refers to the practice of ascribing to an individual woman or man specific attributes, characteristics, or role by a reason only of her or his membership in a social group of women or men. So, example aning gender stereotype is that if lucky ka means that you should be strong or you should be alpha, you should be dominant. And if you are a woman, no, para sa una na if babae ka, you basically belong to the kitchen or household chores. One example of gender stereotype. So, gender stereotyping is defined as overgeneralization of characteristics, difference, and attributes of a certain group based on their gender. Gender stereotypes create widely accepted biases about certain characteristics or traits and perpetuate the notion that each gender and associate behavior are binary. Under this assumption, if a man or a woman act differently from how their gender is expected to behave, there is a disconnect in the evaluator's mind. As our society moves to a broader construct of what gender means, individuals who are stuck in this binary idea of gender have difficult time wrapping their brains around. Individuals who do not fit have a difficult time wrapping into a strict gender dichotomy or do not identify with any gender at all. Example ani is the LGBTQ, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. No? They don't belong. They feel that they don't belong in the one certain gender. So, what is a good example of gender stereotype? As I said earlier, gender stereotype have descriptive components or beliefs about how males and females typically act, as well as prescriptive components. For example, women are supposed to be nurturing and avoiding dominance, and men are supposed to be agentic and avoid weakness, no? No, as I said kanina nga, if men ka, ang stereotype nimo is that you are supposed to be kusgan, strong, you are supposed to be dominant and all. And if you are a woman, you are weak, you belong to the kitchen, no? It is very sad, no? So, gender stereotyping effects on society. So, unsa may apekto ng gender stereotyping in our society? Gender stereotypes are dangerous because they can cause us to might be disoriented in our perceptions. When individuals don't conform to our gender stereotypes, the result can lead to discrimination and unequal or unfair treatment. Like karon, if makita tag, for example, makita tag babae nga kanang sundalo, marutag malaynan kay babae man na siya, no? Marutag makaingon nga dapat sa kusina lang siya, nga na ang makos sa gender stereotypes sa atong society. It can cause disorientation, kanang gubot lang ang stereotyping. So, gender stereotyping is bad for the society because it just create lifelong inequality and discrimination. Gender stereotypes are dangerous because when individuals don't conform to our gender stereotypes, no, this result can lead to discrimination and unequal or create unequal or unfair treatment to a certain person, which is to defy people assumption about his or her gender. When gender inequality occurs in the background of gender stereotyping, this is in the most basic sense of sexism. So, that is all for gender stereotype. Thank you.
I'm Luigi B. Canadalia. I'm talking about what affects the gender of individual. Gender identity is defined as a personal conception of oneself, male or a female, or rarely both or neither. This concept is intimately related to the concept of gender role, which is defined as the outward manifestation of personality that reflect the gender identity. Gender identity is nearly at in state is self-identified as a result of a combination of inherent and extrinsic of environmental factors. Gender role, on the other hand, is manifest which in society by observable factors such as behavior and appearance. For example, if a person considers himself as a male and is most comfortable refreshing to his personal gender is masculine terms, then his gender identity is a male. However, his gender is male only if he demonstrates typical male characteristic behavior, dress, and or mannerism, those gender role is often outward expression of gender identity, but not necessarily so. In most individual, gender identity and gender role are congruous. There are a lot of diversity in how the individual and a groups understand, experience, and express gender because gender is influence our behavior and relationship. It can also affect health. Gender is determined by how we see ourselves and each other and how we act and interact with others. How does gender affect behaviors? Gender norms are a subset of social norms that relate specifically the two gender difference. They are informal, deeply entrenched, and widely held beliefs about gender rules, power relations, standard or expectations that govern human behavior and practice in a particular social context and at a particular time. They are ideals or rules about how girls and boys and a woman and a man are expected to be and to act. People internalize and learn these rules early in life. Gender norms sustain a hierarchy of power and privilege that typically favors what is considered male or of masculine over that which is female or feminine, reversing a systemic inequality that undermines that rights of women and girls, a restricted opportunity for a woman and man and gender minorities to express their authentic selves. For example, gender norms influence women to perform behaviors in stereotypically less masculine ways and men to be performed them is stereotypically more masculine ways. Accordingly, if masculine performance increases testosterone, men's stereotypically more masculine performance of behavior may lead to more increases in testosterone.
Socialization and gender. Knowing all the definitions of every term discussed by my group mates, I will be tackle the different social groups that could be definitely affects the socialization and gender of individual man and woman. First up, the family. Socialization into gender roles begin in infancy, as almost from the moment of birth parents begin to socialize their children as boys or girls without even knowing it. In fact, there were many studies documenting this process. Parents commonly describe their infant daughters as pretty, soft, and delicate, and their infant sons are as strong, active, and alert, even though neutral observers find no such gender differences among infants when they do not know the infant sex. On, parents play with and otherwise interact with their daughters and sons differently. They play more roughly with their sons and more quietly with their daughters. When their infant or toddler daughters cry, they warmly comfort them. But they tend to let their sons cry longer and to comfort them less. They give their girls dolls to play with and their boys action figures and toy guns. While these gender differences in socialization are probably smaller now than a generation ago, they certainly continue to exist. Go into a large toy store and you will see pink aisles of dolls and cooking sets, and blue aisles of action figure, toy guns, and related items. Another social groups that greatly impacts one's sexuality is the group of friends or peers. Peer influences also encourage gender socialization. As a child reaches school age, children begin to play different games based on their gender. Boys tend to play sports and other competitive team games governed by inflexible rules and relatively large numbers of roles, while girls tend to play smaller cooperative games such as jumping rope or cooking games with fewer and more flexible rules. Although girls are much more involved in sports now than a generation ago, these gender differences in their play as a youngsters persist and continue to reinforce gender rules. For example, they encourage competitiveness in boys and cooperation and trust among girls. Boys who are not competitive risk being called sissy or other words by their peers. The patterns we see in adult males and females thus have their roots in their play as a young children. The next one is school. School is yet another agent of gender socialization. First of all, school playgrounds provide a location for gender-linked play activities. Second, and perhaps more important, teachers at all levels treat their female and male students differently in subtle ways of which they are probably not aware. In addition, many textbooks and other books at all grade levels still portray people in gender stereotype ways, which somehow affects the perspective and outlook of a child in terms of identifying gender.
So, sir, I'm Nelson Aripala, sir. Ang topic is, what is sexuality? Sexual is feeling, thought, attraction, and behavior toward other people are all aspects of a sexuality. Other people can be physically sexual or emotionally appealing to you. And all of that is a part of your sexuality. Sexuality is a diverse and personal experience that is an important part of who you are. Sexuality is significant to us because it represents a rite of passage into adulthood. It is extremely reachable and it reinforces our rules and aspirations as males and females. However, sexuality is a completely passive aspect of our daily life. Sexual immortality definition. The evil attribute to sexual act that violates social norms, evil, immortality, iniquity, and weakness are all type of evil, morally repugnant behaviors. Sexuality education seek to develop and strengthen children and young people ability to make conscious, stratified, healthy, and respectful decision about relationship, sexuality, and emotional and physical health. Hormones are chemical messenger in your body. They make their way through your bloodstreams to issue or organ. They work slowly and over time, influencing a wide range of processes, including growth and development. Metabolo- Metabolism is the process by which your body obtains energy from the food you eat. Temperament refers to personality trait that determine how someone reacts to the world. A person's social environment is the society and all surrounding influence in some one way by human. It includes all relationship, situation, culture, and physical structures.
Hi, I am Matyunil Iwayan. So, gender in personality. According to the study, the majority of women have personality traits that are extremely different from those of males, and vice versa. Women are more sensitive, warm, attentive to others, and nervous, whereas males are more dominating, forceful, and aggressive, and emotionally stable. Influence of gender on personality. Previous studies have shown that males and females differ in personality. In particular, gender differences have been reported for neuroticism and agreeableness, with women scoring on higher on these two traits than men. Gender norms influence women to perform behaviors in stereotypically ways, less masculine ways, and men to perform them in stereotypically more masculine ways. Women consistently rated themselves as being warmer, friendlier, and more anxious and sensitive to their feelings than did the men. Meanwhile, the men consistently rated themselves as being more assertive and open to new ideas. Gender differences in personality traits are often characterized in terms of which gender has higher scores on trait on average. For example, women are often found to be more agreeable than men. This means that women on average are more nurturing, tender-minded, and altruistic more of tend to a greater extent than men. However, such a finding does not preclude the fact that men may also experience nurturing, tender-minded, and altruistic states, and that some men may even score higher in these traits than some women. Generally, men and women have different personalities on each other.
Good day everyone, my name is Akin Ruiz and I'm here to talk all about sexual orientation. What is sexual orientation? Sexual orientation is defined as one's sexual attraction or arousal towards one or both sexes and enduring emotional, romantic, sexual, and or affectional attraction. Sexual orientations include gay, lesbian, straight, bisexual, and asexual. These attractions are generally subsumed under heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality, while asexuality, the lack of sexual attraction to the others, is sometimes identified as the fourth category. Sexual orientation, sometimes called sexual preference describe a person's patterns of appealing and emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to men, women, or both, or neither sex. According to the American Psychologists Association, or APA, sexual orientation also refers to a person's sense of identity based on those attraction-related behaviors and membership in a common community of others who share those attractions. Different type of sexual orientation. First is the heterosexuality. Are people sexually or romantically attracted to people of opposite sex? Heterosexual men are sexually or romantically attracted to women, and heterosexual women are sexually attracted to men. Heterosexuality is the most common type of sexual orientation and is also the most widely accepted at the social level. The next is the homosexuality. It's a romantic attraction, sexual attraction, or a sexual behavior between members of the same sex or gender. As a sexual orientation, homosexuality is an enduring pattern of emotional, romantic, and or sexual attraction to people of the same sex. Those who are homosexual are attracted to the people of the same gender, following heterosexuality, and homosexuality is the most sexual orientation. Generally, when use the word gay and lesbian to talk about homosexual men, women, respectively. The next is bisexuality. Bisexuality is an attraction to more than one gender. Those who identify as a bisexual feel as a sexual and or romantic attraction to people of different gender as well as their own. While this offers a basic definition, bisexual people are a diverse group. Each individual perceives their sexual orientation differently. Bisexuality refers to when people are physically and emotionally attracted to individuals both genders. Unfortunately, bisexual people face certain stigma when discussing their sexuality. Since some people will say it's a phase, or other times people will tell them they're just confused. However, bisexuality is just a valid sexual orientation as any other. In fact, some studies suggest that the most of the population is bisexual to some degree. So the next is pansexuality. Pansexuality is a sexual and romantic attraction to any human being, regardless of sex, gender, or appearance. Therefore, pansexuality, people focus their attention on an individual's quality and personality. Pansexuality is a term that refers to people who are attracted to other no matter the other person's gender identity. That includes men, women, and anyone who falls outside of the gender binary. Pansexuality is not just limited to sexual attraction, but can also involve a romantic and or emotional attraction. The next is asexuality. Asexuality is lack of sexual attraction to others or low or absent interest in or desire for sexual activity. It may be considered a sexual orientation or a lack of theory. It may also be categorized more widely to include a broad spectrum of asexual sub-identities. Asexual people are those who did not experience sexual desires or attraction for any danger. Arguably, they do not have interest in sex or sexual activities. However, they can feel an emotional, intellectual, or aromatic attraction to the other people. So even though there is no physical desire, They do bond with other emotionally and on other levels. Asexual people may connected with people of the same gender, the opposite, or both.
Good day, I'm Macbian Gasipit, and my topic for today is about factor affecting sexuality. The number one factor that can affect our sexuality is our family. Developing of sexual begins when you're an infant. The touch of parents' sights and sounds are contributed to your awareness of your body. Parents are your first role model of sexuality. They hug and kisses you. They teach you how your body can be used to express feeling in positive, healthy ways. Parents influence understanding of gender roles. Ang pamilya mo po ang nagiging number one na factor ng affecting about sexuality dahil sila ang nagtuturo sa iyo ng mga bagay-bagay na kailangan mo malaman habang ikaw ay tumatanda sa pamamagitan ng kanilang paghalik at yakap sa iyo ay napaparamdam mo ang iyong sexuality effect. Number 2 ay ang media. By media, TV, music, magazine, movies, and newspapers are all convey messages about sexuality. Conveys both negative and positive message about sexuality and sexual behaviors. Sa media, makikita natin na maraming nagiging effects ito sa sexuality, lalo na ngayon sa mga kabataan dahil sa mga napapanood nilang mga bagay-bagay na naririnig sa mga newspapers, movies, ay yun ang na-adapt nila sa mga pang araw-araw nila. Number 3 is peers. Peers, with them you can talk to your friends about crushes and advice about famous personal care styles and etc. Pwede mo sila makausap sa mga bagay-bagay about sa iyong mga crush, pag-ibig, o kaya sa mga fashions about sa sarili, sa iyong sexuality, at sa mga personal na care. It also influence can be both negative and positive. Positive shape more positive attitude about oneself. Negative may influence you to make unhealthy decision to fit in. Mayroon din sila ang peers din ay mayroong mga sari-sariling mga pananaw na negatibo at positibo. Mas maganda kung mabibigyan ka nito ng positibong pananaw sa iyong sexuality. Number 4, adult role model. The one you turn to when you need reliable information about yourself or about your sexuality. Mga role model mo sa iyong paglaki, kagaya doon mo mapapakita sa sarili mo na kung sino yung role model mo, kung ano ka. Kagaya ng parents, kaibigan, teachers, counselor, doctor, etc. It's up to you short thought the information you receive and act responsibly when you will receive different information because all adults are different. Nasa sayo kung anong nasa maganda kang palagay ang gusto mo na sa iyong role model na sa iyong paglaki about sa pag-affect sa iyong sexuality effects. Yun lang. Thank you.